I'm Meryl Haber. I'm a retired physician, pathologist, dean of a medical school students' activities, and have always enjoyed collecting art. In my early years, I was fortunate enough to have a fellowship, a U.S. Public Health Fellowship, and live in London. Had no money whatsoever, was making less than my bills for electricity to heat the flat that I lived in. The only thing I could buy were prints, basically, which one could buy at that time for 25 pence or a pound. And with that, I started collecting art at a very young age. I was in my late 20s, living in England, and started looking at what I really liked. And what I found most attractive to me was Dutch art of their Renaissance period, their finest period. And it turns out that, in fact, these are really great old masters that are hung in most museums, and there are many of them, only one of which we really have, I think, and it belongs in a museum such as this one. Well, the painting is part of a large collection that was confiscated by the Nazis in 1940, and Hermann Goering was the leader, and he was a collector of paintings. So I got very interested in the collection because one of the paintings you see hanging on the wall was by the artist Jacob van Ruisdael. And I had been following his painting for many years. He's probably the most prominent and famous of all the Dutch painters, with the exception of Rembrandt, and is one of the foremost painters of landscapes in history, perhaps only compared to Constable in England. So I got interested in the sale because of Nazi theft and confiscation and what happened, and then I saw the painting in this catalog that was one of 3 catalogs of this sale by Jacques Goudstikker. Jacques Goudstikker was the patriarch of a family. His father owned the art gallery. He took it over when he was in his late 30s and 40s. He was a collector and salesman of fine art, mainly Dutch, but also French, Belgian, Italian art. And Goudstikker was a very, very well-known collector in Holland, Amsterdam at the time, and lived in a very lovely home on the Amstel River in Amsterdam, and used his home as the display of the art. Goudstikker was a Jewish art dealer in Amsterdam and probably owned the most famous gallery of art in all of the world, but perhaps certainly in Amsterdam and in Holland. So Goudstikker was a collector of art and had 3,000 paintings in his collection that was confiscated by Goering. And Goudstikker and his family needed to escape from Nazi-occupied Holland. And they did that by occupying a boat across the English Channel and then from there to the United States. Goudstikker was about 40 years old, was recently married and had a 1-year-old son. Goudstikker, the patriarch of the family, was walking across the deck of the ship on its way from England to the United States, and unfortunately a hatch was open, fell in, and died instantly. So his wife and young son made it to the United States without a parent. Very, very tragic story. The painting itself is rather unique in the sense that the painter, Jacob van Ruisdael, never really saw the hills and valleys that are expressed in the painting. He was born and raised in Holland. He never saw that, but found out that the hills and valleys of parts of Scandinavia were something that he really liked and painted rather extravagantly of. So this painting is a favorite of mine. It's well cataloged and has been collected by a number of very prominent families and was purchased by Goudstikker for his gallery in Amsterdam in the mid-1930s. The painting itself is rather interesting in the sense you can see it's a sunset. And it's dramatic in the sense that the sunset, the flavor of colors, the color, the browns, the yellows, are reflected in the running stream, which is a metaphor for life, the passing of water through the life of the painter and also the visitors. The other things that are interesting in the painting is that we see it's a sunset, we see the beautiful amber and brown colors on the trees, and we also see the peasants going to their houses to have dinner for the sunset. The other very interesting aspect of this picture is the fallen logs in the foreground of the picture, amplifying the fact of life. All life doesn't always go as a stream, a nice flowing stream at sunset, but at some point it ends and one has to reconsider the aspect of life and how one deals with it. Once Gehring collected the paintings, approximately 3,000 Goudstikker paintings. They were salted away, probably in a salt mine, but no one really knows what happened during the war. And in 1945, the Dutch government confiscated the paintings that were stolen by the Nazis. The government kept the paintings and would not easily release them to the rightful owners because most of the owners of these 3,000 paintings were not known. Because Goudstikker was an art dealer, he kept meticulous records of the paintings, of which this was one. And the painting was retrieved by the Dutch government, and then the family wanted it back, amongst others. It was very hard for the family to get these paintings because they had to verify who owned them, that they were Goudstikkers. And in the back of this painting, on the back of the canvas, there is a seal of the Goudstikker family and the art gallery, amongst other seals of where it was hung by the Dutch government during the period from 1945 to 2002, when the paintings were restituted to the family. When I bought the painting, it needed some restoration. I had it restored properly in London, and in addition, I had a new frame built for it because the frame was in very bad condition. So the painting you see here in the gallery has been restored professionally, and a new frame, Dutch period frame 1640, when the painting was painted. The exact date of the painting is really not known. It is signed with the artist's initials. So that's the history, and it's quite remarkable in the sense that for the museum and certainly the curators and the attendees of the museum who want to see this painting would know the experience of a family owning a painting, having it confiscated by a government, in this case the Nazi government, and then finally been able to retrieve and given back to the family after a long, long period from 1945 to the present. Given the history of this painting and the fascination of me as a collector and friend of Dutch art, if you will, of that period, I had always admired van Ruisdael's paintings, and when one came up for sale, I immediately wanted to get to the auction and see the painting for real. And by the way, van Ruisdael's paintings are collected in essentially all the great museums of the world. Any museum would want one. So when I bought it, the intent was to display it in my house, which I have done since 2007 when I bought it, to the present, with the idea that even if my children might want it, it would belong properly given this history and the long history of the Nazi regime and what happened to works of art should be given to a museum. And this is a well-documented history with a well-documented painting for several centuries. And I finally said, okay, I'm old enough and this is the time to give it to a museum. And having participated in lots of activities and having been a trustee in this museum, I thought this was the proper place for it to hang.